278. It is I, your host, Wise Papa Smurf. I have come down and started this podcast today so that
This is
I
getting out
could.
of hand.
With me
You
is
ain't holier than
Wormlax.
thou.
Hey, Wormlax, what's up, man?
Hello.
And Double, you're also here. What you doing?
Blake always starts the podcast every week with like the youth minister energy, you know. But this week was especially like full force. Like, hey kids, today we're going to talk about purity. All right, let's go. Let's get into it.
Being a virgin is cool.
Because y'all don't hear what Blake's talking like before, like because we set this up. And Blake's like, yeah, well, I guess we're going to talk about. Hey guys, it's podcast time.
Do we all have our dick covers on?
Yeah,
all right.
All right, good.
What?
It's dick covers.
Up?
You don't.
It's Wise Papa Smurf coming at you. Or maybe it's like a mixed radio DJ thing. Like, hey, it's Big Tuna and the Fish coming at you. It's Friday fart time. We got your best fart jokes, fart songs, fart sounds from the 80s, back to back, 2 for Tuesday toots. That's what we call it here on WXT5, home of the Whopper. That's Burger King.
Yeah, so Wormlax, I forgot what I was going to say after that. But no, I remember dick covers. Yeah, you got to have a dick cover, otherwise you might accidentally trip and fall on a vagina.
First of all, you are in no position to talk to anybody on this stream about dicks appearing in the background of your camera feed. Like, you are like, oh shit, I gotta cover up the dick. I'll be right back.
I'm thinking about green screening just to cover up accidental kid dicks in the background.
You need like a child lock on your door.
Like, invest in green body paint for my children so they just become a meteor or something if they run by. And I'm like, oh yeah, we're recording in space. It's cool.
Funnily enough, when I was really young, I took a green marker and painted my entire lower half of my body green. Not like a little bit green, my entire lower half green. So I would have been perfect in your household. Yeah.
No, because you're not related to me. And
Orlando with the green dicks.
A random green dick child in my house is not gonna fit in. That's gonna be cause for alarm. Like, who is this kid and where are his parents? Why does he have the Jolly Green Giant's dick in my house? This is not cool. So anyway, welcome to League of Legends Anonymous podcast.
Yes, this is a League podcast.
Episode 278.
What a great upbeat icebreaker before we start talking about systematic racism. That's gonna be great.
We're gonna do that. So
3 white men are going to do that. Yep.
Hey, I'm Puerto Rican.
Oh, my bad.
Good start. Just right. So, systemic racism, you said. So Riot Games recently made the news again with their VP, one of their VPs, who got used to work for like Nickelodeon and Viacom and a whole bunch of other things. Apparently, if anybody had checked his social media account, he was a hard right-wing poster of the Fox Newsiest of conspiracy theories and things like that. And of course, with the murder of George Floyd being on the tabloids, he had something to say about it that was particularly bigoted and particularly terrible. That being said, I don't even want to platform it. It sucked, and it was horrible and abhorrent, and come on, man, someone just fucking died in a horrible way. It's a national tragedy. It has caused all sorts of justifiable protest of police conduct and action. It has been a fuse that has ignited a spark of change that has in turn...
Well, we'll see.
Well, I mean, I'm telling you, I think that realistically, the spark is lit. Whether the fire sustains itself into actual change, we'll see. I mean, Minneapolis has already shut their police department, or has pledged to, defund, remove, and replace their police department. Which
Makes me glad not to practice criminal defense in Minneapolis.
Yeah, that's probably also true.
Fuck.
You may have the easiest time practicing criminal defense in Minneapolis in the next few years, but regardless, that being said, like we're in an age of sweeping change right now.
I'm optimistic.
At least as far as that is concerned, and whether or not it turns out to be sustained positive change, or there's change for the sake of change and it turns out negative, is yet to be seen. Who knows? But at least there's an awareness being spread of the differences facing minorities in justice, which needed to be done. That being said, there's some pretty abhorrent things. Riot immediately suspended the fellow and put him on leave pending an investigation. I don't know what your investigation is going to be other than reading what he posted and being like, well, did he post that? Sure did. Okay, investigation complete.
We went left to right and top to bottom, and grouped his letters into words and then formed words into paragraphs.
It's some kind of code. I can read it, I swear.
We found that his writing was far less offensive when translated into wingdings. So, regardless, it's real bad. And it's like, one thing that I did want to talk about in all this is like, how brain dead do you have to be to, as a face of a corporation, even really utilize social media in the most non-bland way possible, particularly right now on this topic.
Right.
Like, I feel like we have, one, I have reservations about whether I think any company at all should have a political viewpoint. I don't know that that's, remember, companies are entities that are just designed to generate profit for their investors.
Yes.
Being an entity designed to create profit, if you take a political viewpoint, you alienate half of your audience, and if you're half of your potential customers or clientele. And if you don't have the world's best chicken sandwich, that doesn't generally work out very well for you, right? But that being said, other than generalized statement of, I mean, everybody and their dog that has a PR firm's like, hooray, Black Lives Matter, because that's at the moment, right?
You mean gay pride wasn't really founded and started by Bud Light?
It was? No,
it wasn't brought to us by Bud Light.
Of course it was.
What?
That's what they have.
Please.
Hold on.
Wells Fargo didn't invent gay pride.
Hold on, back up. Of course, Bud Light invented gay pride. That's why you have the seltzers. They're delicious.
I mean, whether they should or they shouldn't, it doesn't matter. They're going to do whatever they think is going to make them the most money. So I don't have a problem with it depends on the corporation too. Like there are some corporations that have done a really good job. I think Target's done a really good job. I don't know if they're sincere or not. Like Target got ahead of the whole thing, the whole trans issue by saying, hey, we're going to remodel our bathrooms to have a private bathroom so that anybody who needs to use it can use it. Like they got on board with that. They were very quick to say, hey, don't use our stores as a poster child for condemning people. We support the movement. Do I know whether that's authentic or not? Nope. That's my biggest issue is just because they have this stance, how many meetings did they fucking have? That's the question. If your ethos comes from having a meeting with a PR firm and we've calculated that more left-wing people will come to our target. So we're going to take this stance in these states and this stance in these states. Because you could totally fine tune your advertising now. It's not like a national NBC thing. You can put it on the internet wherever you think people are going to listen to it and not put it on there whenever you think they're not or whenever it's disadvantageous. So it's just hard to know whether it's authentic. I don't expect that kind of I guess I don't expect that kind of consciousness from a company like Riot.
I don't expect that kind of awareness from a company like Riot. I feel like Riot's constantly behind the 8 ball. They want to be better.
You mean a company that's being sued by multiple women because of discrimination?
Well, that was settled.
Yeah. Settled, exactly. Yeah. Settled.
Yeah. So obviously all the problems are gone.
Obviously, yeah. Totally.
Of course, Riot, the way they solve their problems would be we believe we found an end to racism. We're going to kill all the black people and then there's just no way that this could happen. Like, that's how Riot solves the problem. It's like, we have put an end to gay discrimination by killing all the gays. They are welcome. Go back to try out our new Star Galaxy Pass. Download Valorant. I mean, it's good that Riot's not trying to solve this, because if they solve their problems in real life the way they try to solve their problems in the game, it's going to be really fucking bad to watch.
Also, Scion's Q has been nerfed because his E is too strong.
Yeah, exactly. We don't like smurfing, so we're going to make them stay in low elo longer. What?
The only thing I don't agree with on the whole, like, should companies take a political stance, if they should at all, with this particular case, is like, I don't really see his stance in this instance as like a political view. Like, if he was
the vice president's stance, the vice president at Riot, the guy who got in trouble, or what?
Yes, what he said specifically, because he's saying that he believes a man should have died for a crime that he committed. And so that to me isn't so much a political as you're just a piece of crap who like doesn't value human life.
Well, hold on. It is political, even though it's abhorrent extreme politics, in the same way that Nazism is political, in the same way that the KKK is political. I mean, when it's not a religious group, but it's a group that is for change of a culture, that's political.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I think the cultural push that they're doing is abhorrent and terrible, again, and I think we are hopefully becoming more aware as a country. I think that's fantastic. But at the same time, like, it does worry me a little bit. And I mean, in this case, less so because of literally what he wrote. But it does worry me that having a differing political point of view than the company line is enough to get you sacked.
I
think it's the way that you say it too.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Hold on. I am not talking about this particular case. Yeah. I am absolutely this guy. You got to go. You got to go. You don't say any of that ever. You don't think those things because they're fucking terrible. And if you do think those things, you probably should go talk to somebody like capable of deprogramming a human being about your insane political ideations. But I mean, even then, it does worry me. Like, you have companies that, I mean, Riot hired this guy knowing that he was an extremely hard conservative viewpoints guy.
Are we assuming that they knew that? I mean, are we taking the position that they had to have known, or was it responsible for them not to know?
I'm taking the position that they had to have known because he's pretty popular. And like, I read the reports, he's very widely followed under extreme conservative viewpoints.
Again,
the shit he posts on social media, this is not the first.
Oh, wow.
Like, he is widely followed by a certain niche of people who are even right of the right.
That's fine.
No.
Like,
that's where it gets back to like companies just saving face rather than actually believing in what they're doing, right? They hired him knowing that he has these crazy viewpoints, and then when he said something went on, it's like, okay, now save face, now fire him. It's like, even though potentially they never agreed with him in the first place.
Well, I mean,
they thought that like business wise he was more advantageous until he finally wasn't.
So let me ask you this: like, if a person is really great at their job and they never say a word and they're completely insane, right? I mean, just totally fucking nuts.
They're called judges.
Nice. So they never say a damn word. They do their job fantastically. You'd write their 20-year performance review and be like, he never left his office, but his work product was fantastic, right? And then you turn around and the dude's like, nude on Times Square holding up a sign that's like...
He's painted green from the waist down.
He's painted green from the waist down, holding up a sign in the background of my basement going, how did I get here? And you're like, wow, Jim just became a liability. I think all companies have to think that way. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, so.
I think you as a person have a duty to, like, not reflect poorly on your company, and I don't think that matters if you're a factory worker, but I damn sure think that matters if you're in upper management.
Yeah, I think it's so like you can't just paint a picture of every job, right, in every situation. Like, there's going to be jobs where you can be a kind of an idiot and have very like strong political stances online, and your job is never going to be affected by it. But when you're ahead of a company that's very widely known around the world and has a large media presence, like you kind of forfeit that to be in that position, right? He was probably making an insane salary. He's very privileged to be where he's at, and so like that comes with extra stipulations to be better than the average human. When it comes
it's like,
there's a couple ways to break this down. Either what he said he didn't think was wrong, which is probably what happened. Number two, because he's just fucking ignorant. Number two, even if he did think it was wrong, he thought he could get away with it. Because he's probably been doing it for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's the issue.
Or number three, he thought he has a protected right to do it.
He doesn't. He should have talked to his lawyers.
Yeah, he does. He does not. First Amendment doesn't apply to private companies, friend.
Especially Chinese ones.
So, okay. Well, I think we've kind of like, I don't want to get into the thing, and it's not, again, it's not about the underlying movement. I think everybody here agrees Black Lives Matter, and we, fully support everything that has to do with,
me and Blake have been trying to embarrass cops on behalf of the African American community for over a decade.
Yeah, we have. But, like I said, man, I'm all for justice reform. I think it's been a long time coming. I'm sad that it took the death of a man to do that. But I'm glad that at least we've had some sort of spark that hopefully will ignite real change.
Here's what I think. I think it's going to lead to a bunch of opportunistic politicians wrapping themselves in a veil of like progressive reforms, getting power based on, this movement, and then not effectuating change. This is exactly what happened where I live. We had the first African-American female head DA. She got elected. Great. She's fucking right-wing as hell. Like, she's a Democrat, she got a D by her name. But the person who was running against her was way more progressive in terms of cash bail reform, in terms of these things that we want, in terms of deferred dismissals, in terms of like ending the juvenile justice to prison pipeline, school to prison pipeline stuff. Like, on the issues, she was a much better candidate. From a white man's perspective on what kind of criminal justice reform needs to take place, like, we took a huge step backwards, but it was seen by many as progress because, hey, it's cool. We had our first African-American female. But it's like, yeah, from a defense point of view, not the direction that we needed to go from a policy standpoint.
It's kind of weird to me, and like, I'm just going to throw this out there because it's whatever, but it's kind of weird to me and also somewhat racist to just be like, oh, it's an African-American female, therefore I assume she's going to have these positions.
That's what I think is going to happen.
You think it's going to be another one of those where we just plug in and fill in the blank person, like they're fungible?
I think the movement is so spontaneous and so like it hasn't grassroots yet. Does that make sense? Like, when you have a grassroots movement that's connected and has information channels, like, you can prop up candidates. And I've seen that work on city councils before. Like, typically that's how it happens. Like, you have these activists who have a grassroots network, who knock on doors, who do the things to get progressive candidates into positions where policy can be changed. But like, with everybody just kind of joining at once, like, people are going to be lazy. That's the thing. I'm sure you harp about it too, is like, I have a general public that picks my judges. They don't know fucking shit. They're not in the courtroom every day. They're completely unqualified to make that decision. So just the same way that I'm unqualified to vote for my soil and water guy. Like, we have a county position that's like soil, and I don't fucking vote for him because I'm not qualified. I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't look at the dirt. My water's fine. I don't know. Like, I don't vote.
Is your water fine? You should probably ask your soil and water guy.
And in Michigan, tell you that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Let's make sure it doesn't come from Flint. But I mean, that's my point. Is like you've got people that are going to be making snap judgments on a local level without really taking the time to know who's about what. And I mean, the people that are putting themselves into these powerful positions, they know exactly what to say to the big churches, to the big people to get the votes. And then when they get on the bench, nobody's paying attention. Or when they get into the DA's office when nobody's paying attention, or they become the sheriff or the fucking deputy and nobody's paying attention, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah. I do have a very jaded outlook on that. I just hope that it doesn't become like we're just going to throw in, fill in the blank people as like a token, which is ridiculous because it's like
Clarence Thomas's. I don't want Clarence Thomas's.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want Ben Carson's. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, I'm privileged and I'm white, but I feel like I can make those kind of statements without hopefully angering people. Like, I feel like I have enough perspective to judge like what kind of reforms should be taking place based on like my ideals of justice, even without like having firsthand knowledge of like the faults of and racial discrimination in our society.
And by the way, I'm in no way suggesting that they shouldn't pick black people. I don't think they should pick black people because they believe that they're like some sort of fungible, oh, well, she's a black woman, so she's must filled this way. Like, no.
Which is exactly what happened in Guilford County.
So, I mean, pick somebody who actually has a platform that you believe in, treat them like a human being, and pick them for that reason because they have thoughts and ideas that you agree with, not because they're black, not because they're white, not because they're Asian, not because they're whatever, because they're people that have an idea that you agree with. And maybe it's time that we start listening to some of those ideas before we have an insane militaristic police force that kills people.
Yeah.
So
I think the big thing too, like with this podcast, like I think our big demographic is like kids, like people my age in their 20s. We're like the biggest demographic that don't vote. So like get out, like we're the ones complaining on Reddit and Twitter about all these issues that are going so awry now. Like, so be the change you want to see, because we have like, I know it sucks that you feel like one person can't really do a lot, but like our demographic is always the ones who don't get out and vote. And we would be able to do a lot more if we actually did that.
Well, I mean, there's a shit ton of 20-somethings.
Yeah.
I mean, there really are.
And, once COVID's done, there's going to be a lot less old people.
Oh, my God. Okay, so under League of Legends, let's talk about League of Legends. Yeah.
As cringe as that comment was, there's at least like I'm gonna say at least 20% are just happy I said that so that we move the fuck on.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I'm done talking about politics. Anyway, I just thought in the time that we had, in the times that we are in, it's probably important to mention it in a way. Like, okay, I'm gonna say this, and then we're gonna move on to actual League. So this last thing I say.
You get the last word, Blake.
Yeah, I get the last word. It's my fucking podcast. Anyway.
White man asserts authority.
Let me just call Sam
podcast. Wasn't Sam wasn't an Asian guy the original owner of the podcast?
Right, we're very progressive.
White man just snatched it on up. It's like the railroads. Just took it.
This took a bad turn.
So anyway, the one thing I will say is like I think the problem with politics is it becomes too bannered. You have to pick a camp, and that is your group, and you don't think about the overlays or the impacts of what it is that you feel or you believe in, regardless of what that is, right? I don't think people who have conservative viewpoints are evil. I don't think people who have liberal viewpoints are crazy and detached from reality. I think that I'm a very moderate person for the most part. But that being said, as a moderate person who's not a banner carrier for either party, it actually gives me a unique opportunity to look into what I believe and believe it for reasons and articulations that I can actually think through. I would encourage everybody who is listening to the podcast, whatever their political leanings and ideations are, you have a right to think the way that you think, and you should believe what you believe in after reviewing it and after thinking about it, not because you were spoon-fed a point of view by anyone and have thus taken it as fact. Think about why. Take time to educate yourself, challenge your own beliefs, and see if you still believe in them in the end. If you do, great. You're a stronger person with stronger beliefs, and you can articulate those to other people. And that's how politics should be spread, not by shouting them in the face of people who dissent with you. And that's not a shot at protesters. That's a shot at political discourse in this country. We tend to point fingers and shout at faces.
Online.
Yeah.
I agree.
Or on network
Online.
television.
Never face to face.
Yeah, or in network television. We have two opposing networks that do that constantly. So, educate yourself and learn what you're voting for, and then go fucking vote, for Christ's sakes, and maybe change will actually happen.
Don't just vote, though. Like, that's like the bare minimum. Like,
learn. I'm saying learn before you vote.
I'm a big believer the structure of the system has never changed with a ballot poll. Like, if you try voting and if it doesn't work, get connected with people and do what really takes to change this country, which is organized.
What are you even saying? Like, try voting, and if it doesn't work, vote 11,000 more times.
No, I'm saying go outside the structure of the system. We didn't get any of the fucking cool shit that we have from voting. We didn't get the Civil Rights Act from voting. We got that shit from civil disobedience. Like, we don't have a fucking weekend because senators just decided, oh, wouldn't that be great to give people a weekend? No, like unions and strikers got their heads clubbed in for it. Like everything that we take for granted, the 40-hour work week, all this stuff happened from civil disobedience. That's what it takes to get shit done. I mean, people want to talk about voting, that's fine. But without civil disobedience, nothing's going to happen. Organized, consistent civil disobedience is how you effectuate major change. It's the only way. But that's a soapbox for another day.
Sweet.
So this game I've heard about, League of Legends.
Valorant.
Have you heard of this?
You're right. Actually, I know an Asian guy that made a podcast about it.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
I stole it from him.
Cobra! So anyway, League of Legends. Guys, we're here to talk about team fighting today. That's the topic we picked, and I think it needs to be done. So, you're in a team fight, front to back. You don't know how to act. We need to team fight. We're team fighting. So, guys, let's
nice
talk
cultural
about this.
appropriation there, Blake.
Yeah, thanks. This is the sensitivity episode. You would be surprised. Cobra has fantastic resources for, dealing with the public, because we have to. The good news is HR doesn't have to do shit because we never hit anybody when we shoot.
Well, Destro was head of HR too. Nobody's gonna fucking complain to that guy. Like, he's intimidating as fuck.
You can never tell what he's
metal face.
As I say, you can never tell what he's thinking. His facial structure never changes.
He was banging that brunette the whole time anyway. I'm pretty sure. What was her name?
She's like the Viper of Cobra.
What was her name?
Doc Hot Legs. Hot and sexy.
Hot Legs.
That seems legit. I mean, it sounds like something that would be in that.
Honey, I'm going to name my daughter Dr. Hot Legs. Maybe she'll be a doctor. Maybe she'll have hot legs. But either way.
Let's see. Female Cobra
she used
doctor.
to be Mrs. Hot Legs. Since she got her
degree. She had glasses. She was bespectacled. Oh,
yeah, I got her. Baroness. That's her name.
She was just the Baroness.
So, wow, Baroness. So how does that relate to team fighting in League of Legends? Because
okay, so
you team fight and you take Baron.
So Cobra team fought all the time, and they were fucking terrible at it. And G.I. Joe was actually good at team fighting, and they would win the objective.
Knowing is half the battle.
Go Joe! Okay, so team fighting, guys. There is something I want to talk about, and this is top to bottom from, no matter what your elo, right? Split pushing and team fighting are mortal enemies. They are not to be done, hardly at all, at the same time. They require coordination at levels that, you just won't have.
If you had them, you wouldn't be listening to us.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to do a 4v5 and win, or to counter a split and win. So understand that even if you are a split pushing champion a la Tryndamere that's not as good in team fights or something like that, there is a point at which you need to rejoin your team because objectives are more important than what you are doing. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's totally worth it to give up that dragon or that second tier mid turret for an inhibitor turret, right? And in which case, as long as you are balancing out what you are getting individually versus what you could get together, that needs to be a decision that gets made, and that gets fucked up even in Diamond. Because people get the idea.
How do you know?
Yeah, good point. So I was playing with the Diamond player last night, and he fucked that up. So, but true story. My flex team does not have this down. So, that being said, you still need to weigh out objectives, even if that's what you're doing and that's what your game plan is, right? Like, what are you going to gain from team fighting versus what are you going to gain from split pushing? And what are the odds that you're going to take any of those things versus just stall out and do nothing?
The other thing I want to bring up is, like, when we talk about objectives, it's very easy to see these concrete things like towers, inhibitors, drakes, and barons. But, like, something to also factor in is if you have 2,700 gold in your pocket, backing is an objective. Like, that can sometimes be important as well. Like, if you're going to reset or anything like that. So, be thinking about that kind of stuff too.
Okay, so I do actually want to step in on that. Backing, if you rephrased backing, because that backing, the word just sounds automatically negative, like you're giving up, right? If you called it banking your gold, then people would be like,
"Oh, recall."
Well, no, I mean,
like the most neutral way I can think about it.
No,
if you
I mean,
complete your recall casting.
No, I mean, like
banking instead of backing.
You said banking, and so people are like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I'm banking my gold, I get it, and then it becomes like a reasonable thing that you should do, right? Mm-hmm. That being said, in lower elos, people overback, and like it's like, oh, I did something. Time to back and reset to get my health and mana back. And it's like, no, don't necessarily do that. This may be the time that you would be team fighting, but you're not here. Right?
I'm talking about it more in the decisions of like, I mean, like in looking at the overall, never mind. I'm just rambling at this point. I don't know what I was saying there.
All right. But, so
go on.
I do want to talk about that because like a lot of people, this is kind of my number one beef about team fighting that's like a easy to screw up and easy to fix kind of thing is I don't have any health. So therefore I'm not joining in the team fight.
And if you fight the way that Blake's talking about, your voice automatically becomes that way. Like that's what happens. All of a sudden you're like, yeah, motherfucker, I want to fight. I can't fight. I don't have any health. Then you recall you back. You're like, oh shit, what happened to my voice? It's normal again.
Oh shit, dog.
Oh shit.
Damn, motherfucker. Like you're Shaft at the base, but
that's right.
Yeah.
And then you're Towley at the fucking team fight.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I don't have any health.
I'm just a towel.
I found the beat to Funky Town.
God damn it. I forgot about that. Anyway, so like, here's my problem with that line of thinking. You're like, man, I don't have any health. I can't do anything. The fuck you can't. Wait out all the cooldowns. Stand on the edge. Throw your abilities in. Make a difference. Like, I was Lulu, and I got butt smashed for like 90% of my health. A swift breeze would have killed me in the team fight, but I stayed close enough to put a shield enlarge on my carry and then squirrel somebody and run the fuck out of there. And then I waited for my cooldowns to come back and I tried to go in and do the same thing again, right? The second time I did that, I got killed on the way out. Cool. Them using an ability to close the gap and kill me means they didn't close the gap and kill somebody else. That simple thing may be the difference maker in the team fight. Or it may be that I went in on something hopeless and just fed money to the enemy team by trying to be involved. Right? There is a fine line there, but just because you're low or very low on health doesn't mean you shouldn't be experimenting to figure out what that line actually is. I mean, shit, how many fights, think back in your league career, how many fights have you been in that have been turned on one auto attack?
Probably a decent amount.
4.
Very good.
Got a photographic memory. Boom, boom, boom. 4. I know.
I remember them. I wrote it down in my auto attack journal.
Dear diary, today an auto attack changed the balance of this team fight.
I do actually remember a specific example because I remember back, it was like either like right when I joined the podcast or like right before it. I was playing community games and
April 4th, 1865.
Yes,
Dearest Beverly.
And actually, Wise Pop Smurf was shoutcasting, and I was playing Ezreal, and I don't remember who chunked me out because I don't remember all the champs in the game, but I was like 0 health. It was same thing as you said before, like I was gonna die to an errant gust of wind, and I played back in the fight. I threw Qs into the fight, and then once our team started to turn the fight because we had the damage, I E'd in and we killed them, and like we got Baron afterwards, and it was like the team fight that decided the whole game. If I had just backed and gone back to base, it's like our team would have lost that fight without the Ezreal damage to carry through the fight. And I was not even close to half health. I was like a quarter or something, but yeah, like that can be the deciding factor in a game. And would you rather lose? Like I would have rather lost because I stayed there and like maybe I die making a mistake staying in that fight rather than losing because I backed, my team dies, and then I just get to sit there while they take my Nexus turrets. Like, which one?
Well,
which
and
one
that's
would you
the
rather
other.
lose on?
That's the other thing is, whenever you are making this decision, look at what you have to fucking lose. If by backing you will be the only survivor and you cannot defend your turrets, why the fuck are you backing?
Well, I mean, I think what we're talking about here, I'm sorry, I was confused about what the context of this conversation is about because we seem to be like, what are we doing in a team fight or when do we team fight? And we seem to be talking about when do we team fight now.
Right
and
now,
like,
yeah.
When we can say things like fight over an objective, I'm fine with that. You need to make sure that you're not just fighting for nothing. But at the same time, like something to factor in when you're deciding whether or not it's time to pick a fight is how much gold you have in your pocket.
Yeah.
Because money in your pocket ain't on the fucking map.
Okay. The other thing I think, money in the pocket is not on the map. EXP is. You know, consider your level advantages. So if you got kills and you're ahead by levels, that's instantly banked money. Is a level difference, and it's usually something like, I want to say the stats you get from leveling are something like 380 gold or something worth of stats.
It's worth more of the earlier levels.
Yeah.
Like,
so I mean, understand that just by being ahead in levels, you're ahead in items and power, right? I mean, not items, but the equivalent of being ahead in items. So, cool. All right, now, where do we want to have team fights? We want to have, or let's actually, I'm going to finish out the, how do you set up for a team fight? Because when are we taking a team fight? That kind of shit. We'll finish some of that out. Before you engage in a team fight, you need to have vision control over the area you're fighting in. Fighting in a blacked out jungle will most likely result in you losing the fight regardless of what the champions are or the power difference is. Because if you can't shoot back, it doesn't matter how strong your bullets are. Right? Or if you blind walk into a whole bunch of people that are going to poop on you, then you will lose and smell like poop.
No one wants to smell like poop. There might be some out there, but
I don't know about nobody.
But the thing to go along with like the vision, if you're like want vision on Dragon or Baron before a team fight, help your goddamn support ward. I hate people who are like, oh my god, we had no vision for this fight. Meanwhile, they're just farming while their support is getting caught trying to ward something. If you don't help your support ward, they are either going to die or they're not going to get the vision that you want. So please, for the love of God, help your support ward because it could very well cost you the team fight.
Jungler, that's your responsibility.
Honestly, it's anyone's responsibility. Like it
more than anything. I think it's the jungler's responsibility to be the second best vision score should ideally be on your jungler.
It usually falls to the jungler because they have good timings to roam with the support. And
that's what I'm saying. Roam with your supports.
Yeah, it usually is a good position to do that. But if you are a top laner and you just farmed out a lane and you're waiting for your waves to crash and your support is near you in that lane going to ward, Go help them. If you're an ADC, say, it's the same thing. Like, help your support when they're going to ward, because if they get caught out and they die and you don't have vision, like, you're already down a person if they die. And then if you're down vision, like, yeah, it's so frustrating to see how many people who they complain about vision after a team fight is lost, but they were not willing to do the work beforehand to get that vision for their team. They just want to point at support. You're the one who's supposed to be doing vision. You're wrong. You're bad. You didn't get us vision.
So for the record, I didn't tell them to say this.
It's
I had
it's a
no
gripe of mine. So
I had no idea they were going to say this, and I'm so touched right now. Got a tear. Gonna wipe
I'll
that
always
off.
roam with you toward Blake. I'll always be right there by your side.
Like, this is where I was like, motherfuckers! I run out of the jungle, half on fire, screaming. Everybody's like, "Oh, look at that dumb bastard trying to ward!" I'm like, you bastard! Screaming like Tally, little bitch. I get back to
we can see Barrett.
get back to the fountain, like, motherfucker! Get out here, help me ward, you bitch!
You better come help me ward. You put my ward, bitch. Come on.
Jive ass. Talk about Shaft.
Oh god, we're going bad places.
What? No, Shaft is fucking awesome. Objectively.
No, nothing's wrong with Shaft. What's wrong is a white male impersonating.
What? A white guy can't like Shaft? I think everybody should like Shaft. That's silly.
The like part is not what I'm equating to an issue here.
He's using audio blackface.
Audio blackface. Yeah.
To be fair, I started it.
So anyway, all right. So now let's talk about, you're in a team fight. What do you need to look out for, right? And I mean, keep in mind there is a disclaimer here. Every fight's going to be different. Every team fight's going to be different. Every team comp may change the rules of what we were saying. So I'm giving you an in the nutshell overview of what the things are that you need to be focused on, right? First things first is like, who is your target on the enemy team? Who needs to die first? Who is the enemy team's target? Who do they think on your team needs to die first? Is it more important to protect your MVP or to end the life of their MVP? Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do so, how does the fight shake down after that? Right? So let's say that, and keep in mind, this is not as simple as saying, there's the ADC, kill him. Because that is the basic thinking of every team fight. Any ADC who's like 1-8 will tell you they still get focused in a team fight at 1-8. It's like, that dude's useless, shooting out tickle beams at the enemy, and you're like, spend all the cooldowns to murder that son of a bitch, get him! And it's like, no, don't focus that guy. Focus the Vlad over there that is just beating the piss out of your team. He just got out of pool, you know? Mm-hmm. So if you look at that and you say, okay, let's say it is their ADC that's going to be carrying them. We need to kill that ADC, right? If after we kill that ADC, the answer is, and Vlad still kills all of us, then your answer needs to be, I either need to peel for my ADC, and we need to kite them backwards, fighting in a creative if cowardly way, or we need to not team fight at all, and we have to get a pick in order to win. Right? Like, we have to take somebody out of the fight before the fight begins, right? Like, this needs to be your way of thinking when you go to approach a team fight, is like, do some visualizations, do some simulations mentally, and see how this fight turns out if you do these things, right? If you,
it boils down to the fact that you don't want a fair fight. Like, don't go looking for a fair fight, like, for you, in case you didn't pick up on that. Like, make sure it's unfair in your advantage. And that's really the best way to do that, you know. And sometimes if going 5-on-5 is not going to be a fair fight for you, or it's going to be unfair in their advantage, then you need to avoid that shit. Like that's when a pick comes in handy. Well, this is a 5v4. The Fiora is splitting. We can do this, or teleports down, stuff like that. Having what I would call, or have been calling lately, tempo, having the advantage to do what you need to do and acting on it. But yeah, setting up those cooldowns and keeping mind of those cooldowns. If you can poke Vlad into using his pool early, then go. Know your opponent's like major cooldowns and what. Try to. This is something you should be doing in the load screen. What does our team fight look like? What does their team fight look like? If they have a Zed, then your ass, as a Warwick, my ass is probably sitting on my ADC just to make sure Zed can't do anything. Because that's an unfair thing to do. He just comes in and boop, there's your ADC or whoever he needs to kill, and then Zed's gone. Zac is a Zac bubble or a Malphite ult. Do we need to stay bunched together? Do we need to stay a little bit farther apart? These are the things that you want to sort of visualize and be thinking about going into a game, so that when it's 2 seconds to game time, you don't have to think about this stuff. You've already got an idea of what's going on, and then you can sort of arrange the priorities based on their strength.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to do a flash comparison real quick.
Who's flashing first?
Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War, and that is actually pretty applicable to a
What
team
elo
fight.
was he?
That dude was super challenger, man. So, all right, he says there are 5 things that are incredibly dangerous that can affect a general. Recklessness, which leads to destruction. So don't, as a 10-1, blindly chase somebody into the fucking bush. You will die to 4 people, right? Don't blindly split push a lane without vision. You will die. You are not immune or immortal, right? Just because you're ahead doesn't mean you'll stay so. Cowardice, which leads to capture. Don't back before the fight, unless it's prudent, right? So compare recklessness to cowardice and fit somewhere in the middle of those two, right? A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults. Okay?
A hasty temperature? Did you just say that?
Shut up.
Don't let the flame get to you.
I did. I was flipping through. A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults.
Nurse gave me a hasty temperature once. I got a roid. Still hasn't gone away.
Yeah. It's a Southern sex act. Hasty temperature. So when you wake up with a thermometer in places, you don't remember.
Slow down there, sweetheart. We live a little slower pace of life down in the South.
I met her at a bar. We exchanged a hasty temperature in the parking lot. 98.6. All right. A delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame. I would equate this again with elo shit and blaming and all of that. Like, don't think because you're fucking diamond and everybody else is shit around you. Like, dude, don't fall into that trap.
Don't listen to don't parrot what streamers are saying right now, because like 80% of the most popular streamers are toxic and don't help the way you think about the game. It's fine if you enjoy watching them and entertainment wise, but don't follow their example when it comes to mental capability when playing the game.
The last one, I don't really know how to make a great comparison on, but over concern for your men, which exposes you to worry and trouble.
Oh, this is an easy one. If you are the person who is strong, don't be too afraid to take an opportunity when you have it. If you hold back when you have an opportunity to catch someone, you might miss an opportunity and then you lose the team fight later on, right? If you're a fed all-in champ and you don't use your ult on someone because, it's only one person, I don't want to kill them. If you kill one person right off the bat, you win the team fight. So if you are strong and you have a position to take, don't be afraid to pull the trigger.
And I'm going to go back to what we talked about last week, which is communication. If you've got sums up that are impactful, like a flash, and you intend to use them in a team fight, if your ult is up, if your ult is not fucking up, these are things that you can ping really, really quickly to let your team know. Exclamation points. Fucking no, we don't fight now. Or I'm on the way fights. That's not just for ganking. That's a great tool for team fights too. Ping your teammates stuff. Remind them that they have these things. Let them know that you expect them to actually use them in a fight to decide the fucking game.
Okay. On strategy, know your enemy. If you know where your enemy is going to be or what they're going to think, you
Got
can
to be in the
counter
fucking
them.
fountain if I'm doing them. You know what I mean? I'm gonna put them in the
Yeah,
fountain.
that's right,
I know where they're going to be. I'm gonna give them the quick temperature. You know,
I gave them the hasty temperature in the
give
forest.
Them that hasty temperature.
They went right back to the fountain. Anyway, so if you know that your enemy is going to say pass through X jungle bush on the way to defend their bottom turret, you kill them for that. Right? Like,
hey,
you know where they're going to be.
Fuck this one guy up. Fuck this guy in particular.
And it's not going to be a fair fight. We're going to fuck you from the darkness. And then we're going to walk down and take your tower because we just enabled that. Right? All right. Discipline of oneself and one's army. Right? Now, if your team is a bunch of... If your team's...
struggling.
No, I got this. If your team is a bunch of sour flaming bitches and morale has eroded your team's discipline and they start playing like shit instead of a regimented fighting force, you're going to lose. So, honestly, muting your team is not good enough. You really need to actually encourage people and not tear them down in order to encourage them to be more disciplined. Shitting on people does the opposite. Double sniffed, you piece of shit. Which army is stronger? Well, that should be fucking apparent. In your 5v5, are you ahead? Are they ahead? Can you force a direct fight and win it? If you can, utilize that information and do those things that lead to your victory. Which side are the officers and men more highly trained? Yeah,
So
I know you know that.
If you look up and they're a Smurf, just never fight, never team fight. Their officers are stronger than you.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I know you looked that shit up in op.gg before the game even started, and you know exactly what everybody's rank is and what their win streaks are and blah blah blah.
Assassinate the diamond.
If you know that their best player is up against your worst player, you're going to create a disaster if you don't do something about that.
At the same time, be a little bit mindful. Like, a lot of people want to look up at these pregame stats. This happened to me today. We had a Lee Sin with like an 81% win rate, and everybody on my team's like, "Oh my god, it's a Lee Sin Smurf." I'm like, "Yeah, he's won 80% of his games against silvers. He's in plat now. I'm gonna fuck his little ass up." And I gave him the hastiest temperature he's ever had. And his whole team at the end of the game was like, "Holy shit, jungle diff!" And everybody was making fun of the guy that like hyped him up as a big Smurf. Like, I completely out jungled him. It's like, great, you won 80% of your games. Most of those wins came in bronze or silver or whatever it took you to get here. And now that you're here, you tasty little bitch, you're mine.
98.7.
Nope. Hasty.
Yeah, it's true though. Don't give up just because there is a Smurf in the game. People who I hate when people and on the other end too, if you have a Smurf on your team, like you look that up and you realize that, don't start playing like a total idiot because you have a Smurf on your team. You're like, oh, we're gonna win for free. Then you're just gonna make the enemy team actually get the win because you're playing like an absolute idiot. So
I think it's information.
You play every game.
It's information to respect, but not like that shit ain't written in stone. Yeah. Like that's just a number, and everybody has bad games, and everybody, encounters like a Smurf duo. I mean, like, some people are just fucking boosted, like literally boosted.
All right.
Like, I think that Lee was fucking boosted. Like, he was trash.
All right. So here's one. On tactics.
I thought there were only 5 of these. You've read 11 of these.
No.
I thought
there was 5 things for your general, and then other shit for everything else that applies to this. That applies to this. I mean, Sun Tzu didn't even know he was writing a League of Legends manual, but he was.
Good to know.
His Mobifier guide is the shit. So
I thought it was more for Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah. On tactics, be decisive and quick. All right. This is the one he wrote in for me. He wrote this for me because I say this shit all the time, and we're tight. So, though we have heard of the stupid haste in war, cleverness has never been associated with long delays. There is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. Therefore, the good fighter will be terrible in his onset and prompt in his decision.
Commit.
Fast. In shit.
Should we do Baron? Do Baron. Do it.
Yeah. Don't ask should we do Baron. You should already be fucking that Baron and taking its temperature hastily. It's not called the slow to decide temperature. Like a falcon, you should be in that ass taking temperatures.
Like a falcon fucks.
Exploit your
falcon fucking.
Like it just mounts in midair.
Have you ever?
How do
Sun Tzu? I got an idea. It's like fucking, but with falcons.
See that falcon mount that other falcon? It's like lightning.
Yeah.
Efficient.
Be decisive.
Right,
when you're fucking a falcon, you gotta be decisive.
Wait a second.
You gotta be decisive because it is a bird and it will not stick around for this shit.
You ain't got long to fuck that falcon. You gotta get it in.
It turns around. It's got talents. It's got a bit. That's gotta hurt.
You gotta grab it down low.
All right, so we've just condoned bestiality on the podcast. I think it's time.
I was drinking Dr. Pepper, and while you were doing that, your camera was going out of focus, and it made it so much better because I had no idea what was going on. And it looks like we censored what you were doing to Falcon at the time. Like, and the listeners are sitting there going, does he actually have a falcon? Is he really fucking a falcon right now?
A falcon.
Honey. Does Double own a bird?
Call the SPCA.
I hope Double doesn't own a bird.
Honey, they don't deal with birds. They just deal with puppies.
This is the one part my parents will listen to from this podcast. My parents will be like, we listen to your podcast, and we're kind of concerned about you.
We listen to your podcast.
Your father wanted to know where to get a falcon.
We like to try things.
Lexi, we need to know two things. Number one, when are you going to be gone for a long weekend? Where do you get a falcon? And I don't even know your real name, so
I bet your dad just shows up and he's like, "Son, I listen to your podcast. I'm proud of you." And he's wearing like a huge leather glove.
He's got a shirt that's from Wild Birds.
There's like a shit ton of buckles on it. Like, proud of you, son. Shake my glove.
That gloved hand.
Shake my gloved falconer's mitt. I need to say nothing. You know what I've done. All right. Exploit your enemy's weakness. Exploit your enemy's weakness. Avoid his strengths. Fucking duh. All right, next one.
Fucking duh. Great outline.
Yeah, thanks, Sun Tzu. He's like, win war. This man is brilliant.
To get better at the game, play better.
Don't do something for the sake of doing something. Make sure it helps you.
That's actually good advice.
That is really good advice for League of Legends and war. All right. Plan ahead. Don't make it up as you go.
These are all sound tactic things.
But be mindful that, like, the first casualty in a battle is the plan. Like,
yeah.
So it's fine to go in with an idea, but, you know, be adaptable.
Flexible. Yeah, be flexible.
Yeah. Still long plan, though.
Nobody ever fucked a falcon stiff.
Well, it turned out to be dead, but it was still warm.
Yeah. Don't attack someone just because they made you mad.
That falcon pissed me off. Fuck that falcon.
All right, we're not going from how the Art of War relates to League to how the Art of War relates to fucking falcons.
Its beak was really sharp, and and its caw hurt my feelings.
Oh, I've been talking about Matt Ryan, the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons. You guys were actually talking about real bird?
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Oh, you guys are nasty. You thought I meant a bird? I was talking about the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, he actually has.
Fucking
He actually has.
disgusting.
When the
You should
camera
be
went out,
ashamed of yourselves.
when the camera went out of focus, you could vaguely make out a football helmet over there.
Yeah,
It
no,
was.
I was talking about the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, okay. I'm
Right.
glad we cleared that up. Yeah,
Yeah.
we definitely didn't talk about a Falcon.
I certainly didn't just Google Atlanta Falcons players to find some rando name.
Wait,
No.
you didn't know Matt Ryan off the top?
I
of
did
your
not.
head?
I didn't do that. I knew which Falcon.
I was talking about the Atlanta Falcons, like 5-time Pro Bowler Philip Bundersnatch.
Nobody
wait.
will fuck a Falcon the way that Tom Brady fucked them in that one Super Bowl. I'll tell you that right now.
True.
27-3, gave them the hastiest
Yikes.
temperature.
The temperature, they were dead. The temperature said 3 degrees. Not alive. All right.
Tom, they're dead. Stop, Tom.
All right, number 97.
Information is king. Don't go into battle without knowing what you're up against.
Fake shit.
We're literally just going in circles. Help your support ward. Come on, guys.
All right.
How
so,
to? Oh
a
wait.
deer,
Next
a
section.
female deer.
No, next section is actually relevant. How to lose. Right?
I'm really good at this one.
Cool. How to lose.
You just hit Alt F4 before the fountain blows up, right? That's the number one tip.
If you don't see the fountain,
No,
blow, you
it's
never lost
actually-
the game.
Here you go. How to lose. Tell your people to do something they can't do. Promote incapable people. Work your team to death. All right, Sun Tzu. Don't waste your resources putting money on people that you know cannot carry.
Yeah.
Don't
so
tell
when you're-
people who you know cannot carry and to do things that they cannot do. Don't take that dragon. Don't do this because I know you're going to fucking die and die. Right? All right. Miscellaneous. Take care of your body.
Jesus Christ.
Man,
Yeah,
he really
Lee.
goes deep.
Look at us. Look at how we take care
Yeah.
of ourselves.
This-
This doesn't just happen.
You may
Yeah.
not
I don't
like
just
it.
wake
but
up
this
and
is
roll
what
out of
peak
bed looking like
performance
this.
looks
This
like.
is what being. You may not like it.
This is what peak League of Legends
Right.
player
No.
performance
These fingers.
looks like.
Yeah,
Strengthened by grabbing falcons. And holding.
Giving
By
hasty
holding them-
temperatures.
By holding them as they resist. I have subdued so many falcons with these hands. Oh God, I can't do this anymore. We're at an hour. I'm done.
All right,
Okay.
no. We've been to give us top 3 tips.
Oh,
One sentence or less.
All right. 5 essentials for victory. Know when to fight and when not
no,
to fight.
no.
What are you talking about?
That's you, not Sun
This is
Tzu.
what it says. This is what we're doing.
Go for
We're
it.
listening to you, Wise
Okay,
Pop Smurf,
all right.
not Sun Tzu of Art of War.
Okay, fine. Fuck. I thought that was a very good comparison. I'm going to name this Sun Tzu
We
and
may
the
have
Art
been
of Team
slightly
Fighting.
derailed by discussions of falcon fucking.
I
That
mean,
may or may not have occurred.
I'm just going to say it did
I don't
come up.
remember.
You know, like
We didn't not talk about
yeah,
falcon
we're not gonna shy away from the important topics. Because of how to get better at League of Legends. So, okay. Anyway, all right, team fighting.
All I can imagine now is someone's like at a Black Lives Matter protest and like they've got like a mic and everyone's talking about their experiences with racism and like advocating for change for racism. And then I come up to the mic and I'm like, we need to talk about Falcon fucking.
We need to talk
It's
about
a
it.
real issue in America.
I just found out it was a real issue from these guys who swear by it with their big meaty hands. You know, super toned.
I will change that crowd so fast. They will be against Falcon fucking
No,
instantly.
no, they will be against
The
you.
last thing a
They
falcon
will be-
sees.
They will be like, first off, they will be against you instantly, and you will be murdered.
No, this is a very, very important topic that needs to be
Yeah.
discussed.
So,
I'm
okay,
just imagining like a YouTube channel where they review all the League of Legends podcasts. Like this week, everyone addressed the Black Lives Matter controversy.
Lola podcast talked about fucking a falcon.
Many falcons.
Many.
My man.
We didn't hold it to just one falcon. It's not an endangered species. We can each have one. Or many.
I would say that any falcon's in danger if I'm around.
The fuck did I sign up for today?
Danger's my middle name when I'm fucking a falcon.
You know, oddly enough,
we need to change Danger Penguin's name to Danger Falcon.
Yeah. Yep. I think let's talk to Penguin about it and see if we can
change it on the Discord.
Just change it.
Yeah, I know. That's already being done. I'm talking about in League. Like, if we can hit a certain Patreon goal or something, like we were going to get Astros a tattoo. Never hit that. But if we can get up to a certain amount, we get Penguin to change his name to Falcon. I think it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Team fights. Things to look for real quick. Actual good advice. Figure out who's the threat. Is it your team, their team, who on that team? Visualize what happens if you're able to take out that threat. If not, figure out a way in which you can ambush the enemy team to neutralize that threat or to maximize your own advantage. Do you need to blitz them because you're stronger? Where are you going to fight this fight? Do you have vision control of that area? How are you going to fight this fight? Front to back? Are you going to fight through their tank? Or are you going to dive their back line? If you're going to dive their back line, how the fuck are you going to get out? Does it matter? If you kill their back line and you don't get out, do you still win the team fight? Do you gain an objective by team fighting? Are you fighting for a reason, or are you fighting because you saw somebody? If you saw somebody and you can instantly kill them, is that a good enough reason? Because it probably is, and you should. If not, and you don't see anybody behind, do you have adequate vision in order to do what it is you're trying to do? Will it be successful? Visualize results, execute on those results. If it went backwards and you lost a fight that you thought you were going to win, look through it and determine whether or not your choice to fight was a good one, whether your strategy was a good one, or whether you had a good strategy and it was just poorly executed. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you just miss shit, and then people live. Or your brand ult bounces amongst minions instead of bouncing amongst the enemy.
Really missed it. It was good. It was good back in the day. Sometimes you just miss things, man.
Also, don't have buyer's remorse. If you are losing the fight and you know that tank that's stuck in the middle of their team is going to die, and you're the ADC, and if you die, they definitely get Baron, or you're the jungle and they definitely get Baron, don't go in to try to help them. Leave them. Don't have buyer's remorse. Know when to leave the fight when it's lost.
Yeah, know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Know when to walk away.
Know when to run.
You never count your money?
Till you fucking your falcon.
Nice. There'll be plenty of time for fucking when the falcon's done.
Falcon's never done.
It's never done.
Lifelong commitment.
Oh, all right. I went all in on that falcon. I'm gonna say what I want to say, which is I'm gonna be brief. One, know your role. You know, we've been talking about this like mostly ADCs or whatever. If you're a tank, be a tank. Absorb those high damage cooldowns. If your job is to die in a team fight, sometimes people got to die in a fucking team fight. You know what I mean? Don't go into a team fight expecting to live every time. As a jungler Warwick player, I don't. Like, if I'm happy winning the game and watching it from the gray screen, I got no problem with that. The Nexus blowing up looks just as good in gray as it does in full color. I promise you, unless it's yours, then I got no fucking sense. But know your role. Do what you need to do. And the other thing is there's a bunch of apps out there like Overwolf, and they have add-ons and stuff that will actually, at the end of the game, show you all of your deaths. It's really convenient. They just have little video clips, and you can review every single fight that you had in the game. It takes no time at all. You can review these fights and look at what you did wrong, what you can do better, because that's what we're always trying to do. Is just trying to, even if you win a team fight, look at it. What could I have done better? How could I have lived here? How could this person have lived if I had flashed here, if I'd moved here, if I'd saved my this ability or saved that ability for just a little bit later? You know, it's so easy now to look at all of your fights and to review that stuff that there's just no excuse for not doing it if you want to get better.
You know what I actually just was thinking of while you were rapping that out?
Sweet Falcon tits.
No, it's how the hell Zillion is gonna send me a Falcon sex flavored soda for me to review.
I thought he drank all of it.
No, I still have like
any to spare.
I have 5 of them or 4 left upstairs, like corn sodas. I'm like, how are you gonna send me this? They don't make Falcon sex toys, to my knowledge.
Isn't
I guess he could
girlfriend
send me
making
like
some shit? Or his partner. Sorry, him and his partner are making they're making custom seltzers and shit. That's the
Are
next
they?
you requested. Yeah, because like he was talking about how you requested they should make a corn one, and now we will request a Falcon sex one.
Yeah.
It'll taste like
You'll probably just send
lube
me a
and KFC skin.
I'm
Like
probably just gonna
Kentucky
get
Fried
a
chicken skin.
probably just gonna get a big ass box, like an Amazon style box. I'm gonna open it up, there's gonna be like a bird cage, and I lift it out. And there's like a blindfolded falcon, and I'm like, this goes well.
All I know is that after this podcast, I'm
retired.
to go ahead and delete all of my plans for future running for office and everything like that. It's all over now. If this ever comes up, they'll be like, "This guy likes fucking falcons."
Wormlax seems nice, but did
think
you
of the views
know?
we'll get? It would expand our community so much. Totally worth.
Did
totally
you know
worth.
that in 2020 he advocated sex with birds?
Yeah. Anybody
Like, what?
using this podcast to destroy Wormlax's political career, least you can fucking do is boost our goddamn Discord.
Yeah, contribute a little bit to Patreon if you're gonna destroy this man's political career.
Yeah, come on.
It's not campaign financing yet. So.
That'd be worth something.
All right, so yeah, guys, we are kind of on a low. We could use a little bit more financial support, so we would really appreciate it.
We are once again asking you for your money.
Very, very good. So if you guys can find it in your hearts to help us and support us financially, that would be fucking great, because we could realistically use it. Right now, we're kind of at an all-time low. We are still on the borderline of being able to pay for all of our stuff, but I would like to have some breathing room in case anything breaks. And
reserve.
by the by, our Discord is about to slip out of level 2 yet again. So if you want to support us by boosting the Discord, which is actually the thing that our community uses the most, I would really appreciate that, because it ups our stream quality for people who want to stream in the Discord, voice quality, file share, all sorts of shit.
Is there a way to
helpful
do that for
us.
free? Like, does Amazon
If
Prime
you
or
have
something?
like Discord Nitro, you get like 2
That's
free.
what it is.
Yeah, you get like
Okay.
2 free boosts for that, and I think you get 1 more for Prime or something. I'm not sure about that, but
I may need to check on my Prime. I might be able to do that, and I'm not.
yeah,
doing
if
that.
you can do
Shit.
even
We lose
one,
our server level in 2 fucking hours.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's about to happen.
By the time you're listening to this message, we have lost our level 2 perks, people.
Well, that's what,
It's too late already.
like
If you're
I
listening
said,
to this message,
it's-
we're all dead.
well, it's something like $30 a year or something to get 2 boosts a month, which would pretty much
Like, that's
put us-
$2.50 a month.
It's $2 a month. I think you could swing that if you can help us. We'd appreciate it. I've already put some of the Patreon money towards that for this year. Like bought like 3 boosts for the server already ourselves. So I don't really like we need some help, guys. So anyway, speaking of needing help and people actually doing that, shout out to George Atfield. Thank you, George, for your support of the podcast. You're a fucking hero, and I appreciate you.
Thanks, George.
And by the way, George, if you are not an active member of the Discord community, you should hop on and play some games with us, dog. We love you. Love you, George. All right.
Love you
my
like a
favorite
falcon.
Deputy. All right.
No.
Whatever.
No.
Don't love him like a falcon.
I would never disrespect George like that. You let George keep his temperature as slow as he wants to. You don't hasty temperature that man. All right. Good night, everybody.